What's up, guys? If you're interested in getting sweet altars like these every month, you can do so by visiting our Patreon at patreon.com/itresolves. What's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of the Crack a Pack series. Today we are opening up a pack of 5th Dawn, not a set we regularly open on this series, so there are a lot of really cool things that we could potentially get in this one. Of course, we're going to go through this as if it's a pack one, pick one scenario, and hopefully be able to determine what our first round draft pick would be. I'll go ahead and say I did not draft during this time. Obviously, artifacts are the theme here, so we'll do the best we can, but we will go through every card. Our first one here is Cranial Plating. So it is a 2-cast artifact equipment. The equipped creature gets +1/+0 for each artifact you control. You can equip it to any creature you control for 2 black, or it just has an equip cost of 1. Basically what that means is, even if it's equipped to another creature, you can always pay 2 black to move it to another one, just really easily. It's a really cool card in my opinion. I really like it. This gives a huge buff to creatures in this set where artifacts are so prevalent. You're gonna run into them. You're gonna have probably a significant number of them in your deck. So this is actually a really strong card. Definitely one that I would want. I don't know if it's better. It's probably better in Constructed. Obviously, we see it a lot in Constructed, but I do still think it's a really powerful card. So I will keep it here for now. Lose Hope is an instant for 1 black. Target creature gets -1/-1 until the end of the turn, and then you scry 2. This seems like a perfectly reasonable, like, early game removal spell. It doesn't seem amazing. Obviously, only -1/-1 means it's pretty limited in what it's actually going to hit. But that being said, scrying 2 is a nice little bonus, and as long as you can hit something with it, it's going to be worth it. You can also kind of use this as its own little like mini combat trick. So if you're swinging in and your opponent blocks with something that's relatively even to your creature, lose hope it, scry 2, and hopefully win that combat exchange. That seems like a pretty good way to use it. I like the Cranial Plating. It's a more proactive card in terms of just winning the game, but lose hope is definitely a solid one. Skyhunter Prowler is a 1/3 for 2 and a white, and it has flying, and attacking does not cause it to tap. So basically it just has vigilance. They did not have that keyword at this time. This is a perfectly okay 3-drop. I don't think it's amazing solely because it's a 1/3. I like that it has vigilance. It's very good for that reason. Excuse me. But it's not really going to be winning you the game by any means. It's only going to ping in the air for 1 each turn. But it is evasive, and it is a really good blocker. So I like it for all those reasons. I honestly still like the Cranial Plating. I think that that's just a solid pick. But the Prowler, not a bad card. Heliophile is an artifact for 5 mana with Sunburst. So as it comes into play, it comes in with a charge counter on it for each color that you use to pay its cost. So up to 5, obviously. Pay 2, sacrifice it. And it deals damage to target creature or player equal to the number of counters on it. So this is kind of, I mean, it's a long-term removal spell. I don't love it. It's a pretty big investment. 5 mana just to remove something, and you probably are going to have to wait a turn to do it. It just seems kind of slow. Doesn't seem great to me. Obviously, if you're in like a 5-color deck or something like that, this becomes much more powerful because that can actually deal up to 5 damage. If you've got all 5 colors, you get 5 charge counters. That seems pretty good. But I don't really think it's great elsewhere. If you're only in 2 colors, it's a really bad removal spell. If you're in 3, still not very good. 4, maybe, and then 5 is obviously at its best, but huge investment and not for much gain. Volshock Sorcerer is a 1/1 for 1 and 2 red. It has haste, and you can tap it to deal 1 damage to target creature or player. Now, this is a really good card, so it is a little expensive at 3 mana. You're only getting a 1/1, I get that, but does have haste, and it can tap to ping not only a player, which it usually is just the player, but in this case also a creature, which is huge because that means you can add that to damage that you're doing in combat. You can pick off some of the early game stuff. Lot of choices with this. Absolutely love this card. I don't know if it's better than Cranial Plating. I'm going to keep them together for now. And I'll also just say worth noting, because I've never drafted this set, which I mentioned already, but I don't know what the best cards are here, so feel free in the comment section, please correct me as we're going through. But Trinket Mage is a 2/2 for 2 and a blue. When it comes into play, you can search your library for an artifact card with converted mana cost 1 or less, reveal that card, and put it into your hand. If you do, shuffle your library. I actually really like this card in like Vintage Cube and stuff like that, where you have power, where you can actually fetch it out with a card like this. It's really, really good for that. There are, I'm sure, quite a number of one-cast artifacts, 1 or less, I should say, that are probably worth peeling out of your deck with a card like this, and I think if you have them, it's great. I would prefer to have them first. The artifacts can function on their own. This just makes them better. So I'd rather have the artifacts before taking the Trinket Mage. But if you've got a few that you really want to pull out, maybe this is worth it. That's kind of a later in the pack decision. Baton of Courage is an artifact for 3 mana. You may play it anytime you could play an instant. It as well has Sunburst, so it does come into play with, in this case, up to 3 charge counters on it. 1 for each color of mana that you choose to spend. You can remove a charge counter from the baton, and target creature gets +1/+1 until the end of the turn. I don't love this. It seems very, very slow. It's a combat trick without all of the benefits of a combat trick, if that makes sense. It requires setup. It's on board, which means everybody knows it's there. And it's not really going to be surprising anybody. So I find this quite bad. I just don't think it's a very good card. Abuna's Chant, I hope I'm saying that correctly, is 3 and a white for an instant. You choose one, either gain 5 life or prevent the next 5 damage that would be dealt to target creature this turn. And then if you pay an extra 2 as you pay the card, you can do both. So you can intertwine. That's entwine, excuse me. The entwine thing, really cool. I love that mechanic. I think it's a really sweet mechanic. This is a really terrible example of that mechanic. Cards like this that save life or gain life, and maybe in this case both, tend not to be very good. It's a bit of a trap for new players, especially who think, gaining life is a great thing. You can gain life and then you'll live forever. Doesn't work that way. That just kind of stalls the game. And if you're filling your deck with cards like these that are just either preventing or gaining you life, not really all that exciting. It's really easy to just wait and then you can beat it because you're not doing anything on board. You're not threatening anything. You're not applying pressure. You're just stalling. So cards like this, I find very, very bad. Always pass them. Fill with Fright is a sorcery for 3 and a black. Target player discards 2 cards from his or her hand, and then you scry 2. This is like a more expensive with a little extra value Mind Rot. And I actually kind of like Mind Rot, but really only in the core sets. I don't love it in a lot of the other sets that it has been printed in, just because it seems a little too slow. And making that 1 turn slower seems quite bad. I might be misevaluating this card because discarding 2 cards can definitely shore up a game where they've only got 2 cards left in hand and then you put them in top deck mode. But that's obviously asking a lot. That's a very specific instance. I don't know that this would be very good the majority of the time. So it's definitely not something I'm interested in. If I needed a card at 4, I would definitely play it. I think it's perfectly fine, but in general, not super exciting. Mere Servitor is a 1/1 for 1. At the beginning of your upkeep, if it is in play, each player returns all cards named Mere Servitor from his or her graveyard to play. So this obviously is beneficial to have a lot of them. I don't think that this is a card that I would invest a lot of time or picks in. It's a 1-cast artifact, and it is a 1/1, so I feel like if you end up with them, it's probably fine. I just don't feel like it really is all that exciting. It does help both players if both players happen to have these. I don't think you can really worry too much about that. I mean, if it happens, it happens, but you're really just getting 1/1s back. I don't know. I don't like it. Feel free to let me know in the comment section again if that's wrong. Viridian Scout is a 1/2 for 3 and a green. You can pay 2 and a green and sacrifice it, and it deals 2 damage to target creature with flying. I feel like that's a big expense for that effect. Only 2 damage, and you're having to invest a total of 7 mana. 2 of it has to be green, and you're only getting a 1/2 along with it. It just seems kind of bad. On turn 4, I would be hoping to play a little bit more of a threatening card, to be honest. And so this doesn't seem all that exciting to me. I just feel like that's kind of a bad card. Our first uncommon is Disruption Aura. It's 2 and a blue for an enchant artifact. Again, please keep in mind, artifacts are obviously very prevalent in this set. The enchanted artifact has, at the beginning of your upkeep, sacrifice it unless you pay its mana cost. So this is a really interesting way to punish someone who is playing like a really powerful artifact. It's not necessarily a removal spell by any means, but it's something that the opponent now has to play around. The problem is, if there's something on the field that is winning them the game that you want to tag this onto, they're already winning the game. They don't really have to do anything else but pay the cost. And so honestly, I don't feel like this is a very strong card. I could be very, very wrong in saying that, but it just doesn't seem like it's actually doing enough in my mind. Blasting Station is an artifact for 3 mana. You can tap it, sacrifice a creature, and it deals 1 damage to target creature or player. And then whenever a creature comes into play, you can untap Blasting Station. So this is actually a really interesting card solely because I watched a Game Nights episode where Jimmy was playing an artifact deck that was just going ham, and part of the combo was Blasting Station, where he was able to basically infinitely untap it, deal 1 damage, untap, deal 1, so on and so forth. Very, very convoluted combo, but it did work, and he did win the game, and this obviously being the key card in that combo. I feel like for draft, it's a bit slow. You're investing 3 mana, and then you get to tap it, sacrifice a creature, which is kind of a big deal in Limited, and then it only deals 1 damage. Yes, you can play more creatures, untap it, do things like that, that's fine, but a little bit slow in my opinion. I don't think it's worth it in draft. Relentless Rats is 1 and 2 black for a 2/2 rat. It gets +1/+1 for each other creature in play named Relentless Rats, and a deck can have any number of Relentless Rats in them. This is a card that I don't think is amazing in draft unless you just luck into it. If you happen to get a bunch of them, it's amazing. If you get like 8, cool, but it's an uncommon. You're not going to get 8. So I don't like this card in draft. I think this is much more of a like fun, kind of silly constructed card. The Rats deck, I'm sure, is out there somewhere and people love it, but I don't think that this is powerful enough in draft personally. And then our rare here is Magma Giant. It's a 5/5 for 5 and 2 red. When it comes into play, it deals 2 damage to each creature and each player. Honestly, as great as these 2 commons are, this is just a bomb. And we actually are coming out on this podcast episode coming out this week. We're going to talk just a little bit about Limited, and bread does come up. If you don't know what I'm talking about, listen to the episode. But B stands for bombs, and bombs are really important. So I'm going to go with the bomb. It is a 5/5 for 7, but it has a pretty powerful ability to kind of stabilize the board if you need to. And honestly, 2 damage to each player just means that you're getting them down closer to winning. So I feel like this is a better card than anything else. Definitely the pick. Unfortunately, we didn't really get anything crazy valuable. Cranial Plating being probably the most played card in this set, or in this pack, excuse me. But still really, really fun to open. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. If you did, please make sure to leave a like or a comment down below. And as always, please make sure to subscribe to stay up to date on all of our awesome content. But with that, I'm going to get out of here. Thanks so much for watching, guys. I will see you in the next Crack a Pack episode.